Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. My utmost respect to the perfectly enlightened Samma Sambuddha, the noble doctrine of the Buddha, and the noble Mahasangha, the disciples of the Buddha. Hello, dear Dhamma friends. Welcome to the 22nd day of our special Dhamma Talk series with Venerable Dr. Manakada Khemananda of the Sri Sambuddha Lok Buddhist Vihar in USA. Please mark your calendar every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and 8 p.m. Sri Lanka and Indian Standard Time to get benefited more. Kindly check with Dhamma USA YouTube channel and Facebook pages for more updates. Today's topic is Concept of Nibbana in Buddhism. Kindly post your questions in the comment sections of our YouTube channels so that we can answer them at the end of the talk. Without further delay, let me invite Venerable Dr. Manakada Khemananda to start his Dhamma sharing on concept of Nibbana in Buddhism. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. My homage to the Blessed One, Worthy One, and Fully Enlightened One. My greetings to everybody. Today, the topic is the concept of Nibbana. Actually, we know the Buddha was born before 2600 years in middle part of India. By that time, there had been very advanced spiritual background or religious circumstances. Therefore, the Buddha's teaching take a different angle. When he was 29 years, he abandoned all material things and renounced to be a person who wanted to seek the absolute truth. Actually, with reference to Buddhist literature, he already studied, especially the Upanishad text and other scriptures, arts, and other subjects as well. But he couldn't find the absolute truth or liberation in any of those scriptures or religious tradition. Eventually, he went to most famous at that time, who were known as Alara Kalama and Uddakarama. After studying under them, still the Bodhisattva, he could earn the 7th and the 8th jhana, which is known as Akinchanyayatana, nothingness, and Nevasanya Nasanyayatana, neither perception nor non-perception. Actually, he understood even those are the most advanced knowledge that concern with spirituality, he knew that is not the final truth that he was finding. Then he wanted to uh, investigate, quest furthermore. Therefore, he started his own quest. Eventually, he understood what is the absolute truth, which right now is known as nirvana. Actually, when we read uh, many Upanishad texts like Kena, Kata, Bruhadaranyaka, Mandokya, uh, Svetasvatara, uh, it is mentioned more advanced uh, knowledge, experiences that concern with nirvana under the word of Brahma. Because of by that time, those religious people, spiritual people, educated people had little knowledge about uh, what is called nirvana. But I think they never experience by themselves what is the nirvana or the absolute truth. Basically, the nirvana is mentioned in those Upanishad texts also in neuter gender. In Buddhism also, nirvana is mentioned in Pali word nibbana in neuter gender. Because of with reference to Upanishad text, nirvana isn't something made of, conditioned, no shape, no color. So that's the reason they mention nirvana in neuter gender. Whatsoever, the final goal of all Buddhist people is nirvana. They do many effort to achieve nirvana, because of when somebody achieve nirvana, no more rebirth, or that person can stop the samsaric journey. Today, I would like to explain the concept of nirvana with reference to a special sutta, because of there are a plenty of teaching that concern directly or indirectly with the nirvana. Because of after reaching nirvana, the Buddha's sheer purpose was to set as many as in nirvana. At the very beginning, after immediately after becoming an awakened one, he uttered very nice stanza, Aneka Jati Sansara. Since it is little bit longer, I don't like to repeat it here, but the final sentence in that stanza is Tanhanang Kaya Majjaka. Basically, when somebody completely eradicated craving, that person in nirvana. This is a very impressive sutta. The name of the sutta is Susiema Sutta. It comes in Nidana Sangyutta, in Sangyutta Nikaya Mahavagga, the 10th sutta, Susiema Sutta. This sutta explains the Buddha before long made number of disciple, maybe Buddhist monk, nuns, and lay followers. Therefore, the Buddha was mostly respected honored and offered with material things, and also his male and female uh, monks or nuns. Therefore, as it explained in the sutta, some other religious practitioners, they were denied by their lay followers, and they couldn't especially get material thing whatever they wanted. Regarding this matter, Susiema was a wanderer, paribhajaka. Then he had maybe more than 500 followers uh, all the time with him. They invited him. They asked him, now we don't have enough material things. We are not mostly respected, honored, offered. Therefore, better you go to the Buddha and study his teaching. Then we can explain his teaching in our own way to the other people. Because of we know that the Buddha created his own practice, his own ideas, his own religion. So that's why the Buddha was known as a charismatic person. The people thought the Buddha has charisma to attract the people. Then those other religious practitioners wanted to know what kind of charisma is this. So that's why they made this kind of strategy, this kind of plan. Then he said, yes, I can do it. Even he was a leader for a lot of followers. He decided to go to the Buddha and study the Buddha's teaching. Then he went to the Venerable Ananda. Sometime you know Venerable Ananda was the personal attendant of the Buddha. And he said, Venerable Ananda, I want to practice the teaching of Buddha. Therefore, please give me the ordination. Then Venerable Ananda didn't immediately give him the permission to be a Buddhist monk. Instead of, he brought that Susiema to the Buddha. Then the Buddha, without any question, asked Ananda to give permission to him to be a Buddhist monk. Then, after that, he was with other Buddha's disciple. Because of all the time, he was observing what is going around them. Because of he wanted to know sooner the Buddha's teaching and to get a lot of material things, mundane gains. Then some Buddha's disciple, they were practicing meditation in isolated places, and then they came to the Buddha and they revealed that they have attained to the liberation. In Pali language, it is called the Anya Vyakata. Anya is a synonym for the Nirvana. Then he was confused. What is the meaning of Anya? What is the meaning of Nirvana? Then Wanderer Susiema approached those disciples who revealed achieving their Nirvana and asked, after achieving Nirvana, do you have the knowledge to create some kind of miracle powers, which is called Iddhi in Pali language and in the Sutta also. Then those disciples said, we don't care making some kind of miracles. Then he asked, Do you have an ability to hear the sound not only in this human planet, sometime in other planet, that means in divine realm or Brahma realm or somewhere else? They said, no, I don't much care about the divine eye, Dibbasota. Then he said, are you able to read the mind of other people? Parachitta Vijanana. They said, we don't care uh, about the reading of the mind of other people. Then he asks, do you have an ability to see the forms not only in this human planet, in divine realm, Brahma realm, or uh, in hells? They said no. Then he asks, are you able to experience the peaceful deliverance which is beyond form and formless, which is mentioned as Santa Vimokka? Then they said no. Then actually he was confused, because of when somebody liberated, he should be able to create miracles, to hear sound somewhere else in this universe, to read the mind of other people, to see the forms somewhere else in this universe, and experience the peaceful deliverance. Then he asked, what is the meaning of liberation? What is the meaning of nirvana? They said, we are freed from wisdom, panya vimutta. Then he said, I cannot understand whatever you express. Then those liberated one explain whether you understand or not. This is the meaning of liberation. This is the meaning of nirvana. Since he was confused, then he immediately reached to the Buddha. And the Buddha, he asked, he said actually what happened earlier. Then the Buddha said, whether you can understand or not, Pubbe Dhamma Titi Jnanang. Earlier, the knowledge in the stability of Dhamma and Pacha Nibbana Jnanang, later on, the knowledge in Nirvana. Sometimes for a newcomer, uh, it is a matter to be confused because of uh, uh, some people who entered order didn't know about this process. Actually, in Buddhist tradition, it is very clearly explained that those miracles, making miracles and reading the mind of other people and hearing the sound, seeing the sound, those are a gradual way to nirvana. Earlier I mentioned in the time of the Buddha, actually the Buddhas earlier two main the teachers Uddakarama and Alarakalama, they also could read the mind. Sometimes they also could uh, hear the sound, see the forms somewhere else, but they didn't achieve the liberation because of some people think making miracles is the nirvana. Reading the mind of the other people is the nirvana. And hear the sound, seeing the sound are the nirvana. But we should not think like that. Actually, that is the stability of the mind. Later on comes the liberation. Here, then the Buddha explained actually those earlier things that you question from my disciple are the gradual way to almost reach nirvana. But in order to achieve liberation or nirvana, somebody has to earn one knowledge. That knowledge is asavakkaya jnana. Asava means the defilement. When somebody completely eradicate the defilement, that is the liberation. Then the Buddha asks Wanderer Susiema, what do you think? Form. Form, the first aggregate of 5 aggregates. What do you think the form? Maybe the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and physical body. Is the form permanent or impermanent? Then he said impermanent. Then whatever impermanent, niccangwa, dukkangwa, sukhangwa, is that happy or unhappy? He said unhappy. Then whatever unhappy, uh, then is it better to grasp this is mine like that? He said no. Actually, here the Buddha basically explain the 5 aggregate through the 3 characteristic of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and then non-self. Actually, since we have this physical body, through eye, ear, nose, tongue, and physical body, all the time we are interacting with the outside world. For example, when we see a form, whether pleasurable or unpleasurable, uh, sometimes we grasp that form. Etam mama, this form belong to me. Therefore, eso hamasmi, this is I am. Then eso me atta, this is myself. First, we grasp our internal faculties, 5 faculties, as mine, as I am, and then um, as myself. Then whatever external objects come to our mind, we grasp. Therefore, we have the knowledge of Atman as the self. But actually, since everything conditioned, we should not grasp the form, sound, smell, taste, and any kind of contact as mind with reference to Buddha's teaching. If anybody grasps uh, those things as the self, that person has the craving, therefore he isn't able to achieve liberation. When the Buddha explained like this about the 5 aggregate, the first the form, sanya, rupa, then the vedana, feeling, the third one, sanya, the perception, sankara, mental formation, and vijnana, the consciousness. He developed his knowledge about the non-self. And then the Buddha explained whatever form, sound, smell, taste, contact in the future, in the past, they also were conditioned, therefore they also subject to change. Whatever 5 aggregates will be in future, they also will be conditioned, and therefore they also should be changed. Not only present, past, future, whatever, near or far, beautiful or ugly, short or long, everything subject to change. Then when the Buddha explained past, present, and future. He was like understood about the meaning of these five aggregates, about the meaning of uh, conditioned thing, internal and external thing. Therefore, then the Buddha explained the dependent origination, paticca samuppada, in the next level. The Buddha here explained, since the jati, since the birth, we have to continue this samsaric journey. When the Buddha explained about the dependent origination, he fully understood what is the meaning of liberation. Actually, uh, since everybody, every sentient beings have the craving, that person is not able to reach to nirvana. When somebody completely eradicate the craving, that is the way to achieve nirvana, achieve liberation, as pointed out uh, in this sutta and everywhere else by the Buddha. When the Buddha explained dependent origination, actually Wanderer Susiema understood, and then he asked the forgiveness from the Buddha. He revealed that I came to steal the teaching from you. Instead of that, I understood what is the interest, what is the importance of your teaching. Therefore, I would like to be a disciple under your teaching, and then Buddha gave the permission to continue further. And with reference to this sutta, then immediately he achieved liberation. So that is the basic uh, idea and basic teaching, but the complete teaching, on the other hand, about the liberation, about the nirvana in this sutta. Actually, I would like to say that nirvana had been a concept before the emerge of Buddha. But the Buddha, since he understood by himself the nirvana, later on it became an absolute truth for the other people. Earlier, I mentioned that some of very the cultivated people, spiritual wise, they earn some kind of uh, jhana, and they thought this is the final piece. They misunderstood that kind of knowledge as the nirvana. And here I would like to refer another sutta. The name of the sutta is Sariputta Sutta, also in Samyutta Nikaya. Once the Venerable Sariputta mentioned Nibbanang Paramang Sukhang, Nibbana is the ultimate happiness. Then there was another Buddha disciple, his name was Uday. Then Uday asked a question: if there isn't anything to be felt, what is the meaning of nirvana? Actually, we know that basically nirvana is the empty, nothing to be felt over there. I think that question was a little bit reasonable, because of he was a ordained monk, ordinary monk. He couldn't understand what is the experience, what is the absolute truth of nirvana. Then Venerable Sariputta explained, some people earn the first jhana and they enjoy the first jhana. Actually, the earning first jhana is excellent, because of when somebody earn the first jhana, that person has to eliminate like 5 hindrances and some other defilement. Therefore, it brings a great solace to the mind. When somebody reach to the first jhana, the mind of that person is very peaceful, very calm. So that's why when somebody reach to the first jhana, they thought, oh, this is the everything. Sometimes they thought this is the absolute truth. But we should not think like that. When somebody earned the first jhana, is still suffering. The reason is that person has to reach to the second jhana. We know that the Buddha very clearly explained, sometime when somebody earns the first jhana, he is able to reach to the Brahma world after death. Then he can spend a longer time over there. Or sometime with the first jhana, somebody is able to create, as I mentioned, like miracle powers, free to the mind of other people. See the forms, see hear the uh, hear the sound somewhere else as well. But that is not the absolute truth, absolute peace, because of the second jhana. When somebody earns the second jhana, he also think, oh, this is the absolute truth, but not like that. Because of still, if he wants, he has to earn, he has to go to the third level, the third jhana. When somebody earns the third jhana, he has to go to the fourth jhana. And when somebody reach to the fourth jhana, then he should go to the infinite space akasananchayatane. When somebody earns the akasanyayatana, then he has to go to the vinyananchayatane, the infinite consciousness. Then that person has go to the nothingness, akinchanyayatane, and then nevasanya nasanyayatane, neither perception, no perception. Actually, those um, um, mental developments earn some people, as I mentioned earlier, even before the time of the Buddha. But nobody reached to the nirvana until the Buddha reached to nirvana. In Majjhima Nikaya, there is another very interesting sutta. The name of the sutta is Attaka Nagara Sutta. Uh, one of the Buddha's disciples reached Venerable Ananda, and he asked, teach him the Dharma. Then Venerable Ananda explained, somebody earned or reached to the first jhana, then he think this jhana also impermanent. When somebody think like that, even that first jhana is enough to reach to the nirvana. Second jhana, enough to reach to the nirvana. Third jhana, enough to reach to the nirvana. Fourth jhana, enough to reach to the nirvana, and other absorption also. The most important thing is that person has to think this uh, for example, the first jhana also impermanent. When somebody think like that, then definitely that causes to achieve liberation. Otherwise, even if somebody achieve the eight absorption or jhanas, and that person couldn't understand the absolute nature of those jhanas, that person never achieve liberation in Buddha's point of view. Therefore, uh, the in order to achieve nirvana, better to understand the three characteristic of existence. When somebody understand the three characteristic of existence, and when he uh, go through the especially the five aggregates, it make easy to that person achieve liberation. So that is the way all the time uh, the the Buddha explain this absolute truth which we call the nirvana. Actually, the commentary explain vana sankaya tanhaya vimutto nibbana. Uh, uh, when somebody uh, eradicate, as I mentioned earlier, the craving, then that is the nirvana. Actually, in many suttas, the Buddha also refers few terms uh, to mention the craving. One of them is Chandaraga, Chanda, then the second one Raga, then the Nandi, then the Nirvana. Chanda, sometimes we think um, uh, Tanha covers the all defilement. But the Buddha in different contexts use different terms to explain the amount of craving. For example, chanda. Chanda means the basic desire that comes to our mind. Suppose when we see a form, then it explains like that. Chakkuncha padicca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññānam tinna sangati passo passapacchaya vedana, like that. Uh, Through the eyes, we receive the forms. When we receive a form, then we have a kind of feeling. Then whether that feeling pleasurable or unpleasurable, we have like a very tiny, very sharp desire at the very beginning. Then that is called the chand. And then secondly, raga. Raga means we like a stick to that desire. Think about when maybe a man sees a form of a woman. Maybe if the form is beautiful, then he wants that form. When somebody hears a sound, if the sound is melodious, that person wants that sound. Then the odor, taste, any tactile objects. When he uh, repeats that desire, that is called the raga. Then in the third level, that person, the Pali word nandi, that person enjoy it repeatedly. Because of he is rethinking maybe the form that he saw maybe yesterday, maybe last week, maybe last month, maybe last year, maybe before few years. Still, that person has that form in his consciousness. When he uh, repeat that form and other objects, external objects as well, then that is the nandi, overjoy. Finally, the tanha means uh, the the final level, and the like the dangerous level as well, because of we have the craving, the tanha that we have accumulated, sometimes not only in this very life, Sometimes maybe few previous lives in this samsara. When uh, uh, that samsara concern, sorry, that so when that tanha, the craving concern with us, maybe from time to time, that is the thing that keep us in this samsara. The Buddha mentioned in Anamatagga Sangyutta, Anamataggo yam bhikkave sansaro pubbha kotina panyayati. The beginning point of our samsaric journey difficult to discern. Tanha sanyojananam, avijja nivarananam, we have bound only with two things. Tanha sangyojana, connected with tanha, avijja nivarana, it has covered with the ignorance. Only two things keep up us in this samsara. So that's why better to understand what is the meaning of chanda. Chanda means um, when we see any external object, and when we have the tiny desire at the very beginning, that is the chanda. That is the thing should be eliminated to be a liberated one, or in other words, to be to achieve the liberation. The Buddha and other liberated one uh, have done only one thing. That thing is to eliminate this chanda when that comes to uh, the mind at the very beginning. Otherwise, nobody is able to achieve liberation. Then, after achieving liberation or after achieving nirvana, still they have to live. We know that when Bodhisattva was 35 years, he became an awakened one. He lived another 45 years, and number of other Buddha's disciples. Think about Venerable Sariputta Moggallana, Venerable Mahakassava, Venerable Anuruddha, Venerable Bakkula. Venerable Bakkula was 80 years old when he get the ordination in Buddhist tradition. Then he continued another 80 years. He lived 180 years. He experienced the taste of nirvana about 80 years. They lived in the present moment. Living, in order to live in the present moment very peacefully, only one thing we have to remove. That thing is chanda. Chanda means when we see a form or when we hear sound, etc., we have to understand this is condition. The form is conditioned, the sound is conditioned. Whatever is conditioned, it should be changed. It should be perish. It should be disappear forever. That is the most important point of achieving uh, Nibbana. When somebody think like that, ditte dittamatan, when see a form, just seeing. So that is the liberation. That is the way to tanhakaya. Tanhakaya means to eliminate completely the craving, because of everything impermanent, things that everything subject to perish. So that is the way to stop craving. That is the way to stop tanha. That stopping or completely eradicating tanha or craving is the liberation. Um, Another occasion, Venerable Sariputta mentioned, right now I am living, seeing the origin and disappearing. Origin and disappearing. Because of when forms come to our mind, that is the origin, then disappearing. Origin and disappearing. Sometimes this might be a very hard work for some people, but without coming to this point, nobody can achieve nirvana. So that is the uh, absolute truth. Therefore, even nirvana was like a conceptual thing for the people, number of people around this world. But after the Buddha, it was the absolute truth because of uh, nirvana should be absolute, not a concept. If the concept, that means that is not the nirvana. That means there should be something again. But when somebody reach nirvana, then everything gone. That is the uh, absolute truth. Therefore, this is my presentation, especially with reference to the Susiema Sutta in Sangyutta Nikaya. I would like to conclude my presentation here. If you have any question, I think you have time.
Thank you so very much, Venerable, for this profound speech on concept of Nibbana. I'm sure all our Dhamma friends around the world were benefited today. Dear Dhamma brothers and sisters, we will take up your questions now, and we encourage you to post your questions in simple language through the Dhamma USA YouTube channels. Venerable, there is one
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
How does he or she know that he or she has attained Nibbana? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Um, Actually, there are two ways to know. One thing is when somebody has the advanced knowledge than the practitioner, he can say, now you have eliminate this amount of craving. That means you have reached to this level. For example, when somebody reach to the first stage, which we call the extreme entry or sotapanna, then the sakadagami, the once returner, can read that you have reached to the first stage. And the second method is the practitioner by himself know, now I have eliminate this amount of craving, this amount of uh, uh, discipline. Because of when we read some suttas, for example, it is very well-known sutta, the Kalama Sutta. In that sutta, the Buddha mentioned, do you know uh, uh, what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing? And do you know right now you have anger in your mind? Do you have jealous in your mind? Do you have hatred in your mind? Because of, if those things come to our mind, we know right now we have those things. But when we co- eliminate completely those things, we know right now we don't have those things. Therefore, sometimes the practitioner by himself or herself should be known, or I have eliminated this amount. And sometimes he or she can get the assistance of a person who uh, has reached uh, uh, to uh, another highest level.
Thank you very much, Venerable. We don't seem to have any other question. Therefore, with that, we conclude today's Dhamma sharing, and we look forward to meeting you with more insightful Dhamma sharings in the coming weeks. Let's keep our palms together, close to our hearts, and pay respect to Venerable Dr. Manakada Khemananda with three sadhus. May you always be well, happy, and healthy, dear Venerable. Sabbi tiyo vivajantu, sab rogo vinasatu, mate bhavat vantarayo, sukhi dighayu ko bhava. Excuse me, Venerable, one question has just come up.
Yeah.
Let me show it on the screen. Mm. It is, can anyone attain Nibbana in this birth itself? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah, actually, the Buddha mentioned Ajeva Kichamatapang yo kojanyo marangsuve. Within this very life, everybody has to make effort to reach to at least to the first stage Sotapanna. That means that person has maximum 7 lifetimes, then eventually reach the Nirvana. Appamado Amatapadang. Actually, when the Buddha lay down on his deathbed, finally he said, "Be diligent," because of if anybody make effort repeatedly, enough effort, that person definitely is able to reach to at least the Sotapanna stage or eventually to the Nirvana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable, from the same Dhamma sister, we have another question.
Yeah.
It's a follow up. Is there any pre-requirement to follow the path? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Uh, Actually, I think the path here means the Noble Eightfold Path. I think Noble Eightfold Path. Uh, uh, there are actually different method. The Buddha mentioned uh, Sappurisa Sansevo, we have to associate good people. That means if anybody doesn't know about the Buddha's teaching, and he or she can get enough information from that person has a good friend. That is one way to reach to the path. Then reaching path means, especially when somebody follow the Noble Eightfold Path, naturally that person will be able to develop sila, the virtue or morality, then the samadhi, the concentration, and finally panya, uh, the wisdom meet the liberation. Um, um, Actually, there should be a gradual way. First, should get enough information, then that person is able to reach to the um, uh, final goal gradually. Uh, I would like to recommend here, if you have a chance, please read the Paharada Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya Attaka Nipata. Paharada Sutta, in that sutta, the Buddha very clearly explained the gradual way to reach Nirvana. Since I don't have enough time, I don't like to explain it. Please read that Paharada Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya in 8.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable, one more question has come up.
Yeah.
The question is, can we get Sotapanna in this life if we are hardworking? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Definitely, definitely. Not only Sotapanna, but we can reach to the rest higher level, that once returner, non-returner, and Arahat meet the liberation. The Buddhas never said um, some people have to spend this much of lifetime to achieve liberation. He never said within this life, within this moment, within this day, within this week, within this month, within this year, within this life, if anybody practice regularly and hardly, dedicatedly, then he or she is definitely able to reach to the highest goal.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Mm. There doesn't seem to be any other question. So let me conclude now. Sabhityo vivajantu, sab rogo vinasatu, mate mritvarayo, sukhi digayu ko bhava. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. See you again next week, this time. Good night and Theravan Saranai.